Welcome to IdeaCon. I'm glad you're here. Folks, we've got a great day ahead of us. And we got people from Nashville, trying to find my buddies from Dublin, and Boston's like another planet. They're here somewhere. But we got folks that are over from England. We got people even from Smyrna. But I want to welcome you all here because this is going to be an amazing day. I mean, what an amazing time that we live in. A time that ideation is moving at a faster rate than we've ever seen before. And the good thing is that most of the people in here are thinking entrepreneurially, right? But there's a lot of people who are not. What that does is that gives us an opportunity. It gives you an opportunity, right? An opportunity to be the head and not the tail. All right, the opportunity to be able to lead an industry. And the first time in history that we are seeing a phenomena that we're going to talk about called the second machine age. Let me stop for a second. I'm getting excited because I want to go ahead and talk about that. And I hope that most of you will agree with me because we got an amazing opportunity. So as Kane said, I'm the CEO of IdeaShares, and we wanted to put on a conference. And the conference is really built out of the same DNA that our company is built out of. See, we live in the early stages of ideation. And what that means is we're between the time that you actually have something that you've written down on paper, all right, to the time that you actually get to what we like to call the MVP, which is the minimally viable product. Because until you have an MVP, as you're going to hear from our investors later today, you don't have something necessarily that you can get what we call traction, which is everything. You've either got to be able to sell something, or you've got to be able to go raise money, or you've got to be able to create awareness for people to get behind it. And until you reach traction, you can't do that. So there's a lot of accelerators that are out there. We've got some of the best in the world, actually. I think the number 5 master accelerator in the country today is right here in our own backyard with the Nashville Entrepreneur Center and also the folks at Launch Tennessee. That's where we live, is in that space, okay, between the paper napkin idea and the minimally viable product. So there's a couple people that I want to thank, more than a couple people. There's going to be more than 30 people that will actually have a microphone today, so you understand why I haven't slept in about a week, all right? But we've got it beautifully choreographed. I want to thank the people from Skyway Studios. They've done a phenomenal job. Chris Yates, if you'll wave at the back, I appreciate you. Thanks, Chris. I want to thank the folks from Michael Shane Media. Mike Termali is actually at the back. Mike, if you'll wave, that's the gentleman that put together the videos. And when you hear the music all day and you see the flow, there's so much that went into it, all right, and these people are responsible for that. But I want to thank you for being here, and then I want to thank the folks. Most of you didn't know this, and we didn't tell you because you might not come. You might be home watching it today. But we're live streaming this around the world, okay? We're live streaming this to 2 entrepreneurial centers in Europe. All right, there are accredited investors that actually are tuning in from across the country, and there's a lot of ideators and entrepreneurs and inventors that are here too. That's what IdeaCon is about. What we want for you today is to be able to leave here having found out something or learned something that's going to help you on your journey, but I also want you to meet someone that's going to help you on your journey. So what we're trying to do is to bring the entrepreneurs, the innovators, and then the investors together into one place to help you and to learn about the early stages of ideation. A few other people that I want to thank here today. I just want to thank our sponsors. I mentioned Launch Tennessee earlier. They're one of our anchor sponsors, and just really appreciate everything that they've done. Charlie Brock and his group. You're going to get to hear from Jason Denenberg a little bit later on in the session. Also want to thank Pilgrim Consulting, because without Mark McGarity and Ken Palm, in their group, we've got Kevin Robinson, we've got Rebecca Penapento. I want to thank all of them. They've done a phenomenal job and appreciate that they're here. I sound like Donald Trump, right, when I said phenomenal, right? All right. So, sidetrack. A couple other people, quickly moving on. I want to thank Archiplex. I want to thank them for what they do. They make stuff. You're going to hear from Tom Harlander today. You're also going to hear from Sam, one of his right-hand men, and they're doing amazing things, and they make stuff. All right, you're also going to hear from Pure Fusion Media. You're going to hear from David Litwin. You're going to hear from Eric Dobson at the Angel Capital Group. You're going to hear from John Redenbaugh, who's here from Overfund Global. I know you all know what crowdfund is and Reg CF, but it's here. All right, and I think we're looking at staring down a gun barrel of about May 14th or May 15th when this goes live to non-accredited investors and, of course, accredited investors alike. We want to thank the people from Mixtras. So we're going to be doing some intentional marketing here today, not just handing out business cards. Nothing wrong with business cards. David Litwin's going to walk you through that and how to create the best brand possible. But we're going to do intentional marketing at lunch and at the end of the day. And then we also want to thank Kane Harrison from Talkopolis, who was just through here. So we've had an incredible group that has worked very hard to put this together. And of course, I want to thank Ideashares.com and all my executive team. We'll bring them up at the end of today. So I'd encourage you. I'm glad that you're here early. I'm awed by how many people are already in the seats. It might get a little uncomfortable today. We actually sold out, which that's a good thing, right? I would wake up in cold sweat. Hey, come on, you made it happen. I'd wake up in cold sweats thinking that we were going to have all these great speakers and amazing sponsors, and then here would be like 5 people out there, crickets. But thank God that didn't happen. So here's what we're going to do. Let me tell you a little bit more about IdeaShares. This is not a commercial, but I want you to understand what we're doing here. So we've created an ecosystem for people who are in the early stages of ideation or entrepreneurialism. And look, this doesn't matter if you're a complete novice, all right, or if you're somebody, if you happen to be somebody that is in the early stage of ideation, the complete novice, or if you're somebody that's a seasoned entrepreneurial veteran. It doesn't matter. See, one of the interesting things that you're going to see later today when you see the pitches is we have a new piece of technology that's actually born out of a company that's over 5 years old. These people are not novices, but sometimes they don't necessarily know how to connect the dots of the next idea that they have to move to MVP. So we wanted to create an ecosystem and a safe ecosystem for that to be able to come to fruition. So that's why we created Ideashares.com. It's a virtual idea incubator. And the point is we want people to be able to come and test their ideas. We've created a set of algorithms. Most of you are here today because you've already experienced that, and I appreciate you doing that. But it's a set of algorithms to test your idea, but to do these two things. Because if you're an entrepreneur, to be prepared, you have got to be competent, and I'm not talking about intelligent, right? I'm not saying you're all intelligent. Hopefully you're intelligent because you're at IdeaCon. But you've got to be competent, but you have to be confident in your idea. And if you're not prepared to move forward. And I'll tell you what, I'm not in the business of discouraging people to go from our site, or to discouraging them from our site, or discouraging them from coming to something like IdeaCon or 3686, or a phenomenal conference that's going to be held soon with Launch Tennessee. But look, I have seen more divorces. I have seen more people lose their friendships and lose their bank accounts in the name of ideation. And I don't want that to happen anymore. You're going to hear from Eric Dobson a little bit later on today, and he's going to tell you the type of investments most angels are looking for. And if you don't have something, well, by God, don't move forward yet. But it doesn't mean that you won't have something down the road. So that's the point of being competent and confident, and then being able to put people together with the development folks and the knowledge and the wisdom and the capability to move those ideas forward. I don't care if they're digital, if they're physical, if they're intellectual. We've got book professionals in here. Whatever it is, okay, it's an idea. I believe it's been sent to you, and you've got to steward it. But first, you've got to make sure that you're competent and confident in those ordeals. But that's what we're here to do. All right, well, I've used up most of my time now, but we were here to talk about the entrepreneurialism in the second machine age. So I want to impart a few things here to you today, and I want to challenge you to begin to think differently. You may be an entrepreneur that's all you've done for the last 20 years, and that's fine. But you're still going to have to start to think differently. Now, we can get scared about this. We can talk doom and gloom and say all these jobs are going to go away, or we can see it for what it is. It's an amazing opportunity. It's one that we will never see again. The only time we've even seen a phenomenon that's even close to it was in the 1900s, okay, in the first machine age. But we're entering the second machine age, and this opportunity is incredible, but you got to know how to harness it, all right? So what we want to do is we want to awaken those dreamers. And again, I don't care if they're a novice, I don't care if they're a seasoned veteran, whatever it is, but we're living in the greatest period in human history, and I want to help you all seize it. That's where our heart is for Ideashares.com. That's the whole point of IdeaCon, and I'm glad that you're here. So let me tell you a quick story. It's an analogy. It's a true story. All right? This is actually a transcript that came from the USS Lincoln to a Canadian maritime contact about 3 years ago. So the USS Lincoln connected with the Canadian Maritime Contact and said, this is the USS Lincoln. I need you to correct your course 10 miles to the north. Over. So the Canadian Maritime Contact came back and says, we cannot. We would ask you to correct your course 10 degrees to the south. So the USS Lincoln came back and says, no. All right, we're the USS Lincoln. That's not exactly how they said it. I'm ad-libbing. But they said, you move 10 degrees to the north. We're not moving. Canadian Maritime Contact comes back and says, we cannot move. We would ask you to correct your course 10 degrees to the south. USS Lincoln comes back and says, we are the USS Lincoln. We are the largest ship in the entire naval community, in the naval fleet. We are accompanied by 3 different destroyers. We will protect this ship and we will protect our course. We suggest that you move 10 degrees to the south. Canadian Maritime came back and said, USS Lincoln, we are a lighthouse. It's your call. This is a good group. I told that about a week ago, and I think they didn't get it till lunch. So, and my wife said, don't say that again. And so, I was right, babe. I know you're here. What's the moral of that story? You don't have to get hit by the train that you see coming. You don't have to run the bridge, you don't have to run the ship aground. We see what's coming down the pipe. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So I want to talk about the second machine age, because here's what's going to happen. All right, and this isn't the world according to Brian Church, not the world according to IdeaShares, but this is from some very smart people. All the information that we're gathering is from MIT, it's coming out of Oxford, it's coming from Deloitte, and look, you don't have to look far. Look up job displacement on Google, for crying out loud, and you're going to feel it swath over you. It's here, and it's real. And what's happening is impressive advances in computer technology, all right, for improved industrial robotics. And I'm not getting crazy. I'm not talking about Terminator 2 type stuff, Judgment Day, all right? But I'm just talking about the advancements of technology, all right? But they're largely behind the sluggish employment growth that's been happening over the last 10 to 15 years. Yeah, of course, we can blame this all on all kinds of different politicians, but that's the primary culprit here. So what's happening is new technologies are encroaching into human skills in a way that is completely unprecedented, ushering in what many are referring to now as this second machine age. Take a look at Kiva, for instance. What they've done is they've found that a robot can do 70% more work than a human can. And if you know anything about Kiva, they are moving boxes around all day. And what they've done is they've laid off 60% of their human workforce. I mean, that's real. And here's the difference, as I'm going to talk about in a second. All right, in the 1900s, in the first machine age, you understand that's very different, because what happened is it created other opportunities for people to be able to migrate to in other jobs. Now that will happen somewhat, but most of these jobs are going away and they're not coming back. So what they're predicting is, all right, this is in the next 15 years, 35 million jobs. This is not in the UK, this is in the United States. In the UK, it's about the same percentages, a little bit less, but in the US, we're expecting to lose 35 million jobs. And they're not coming back. But that's okay, right? Because of the way that we think in here. But we've got to be prepared, and we've got to help to prepare other people, right? We got an opportunity for people to remember your name, not just because of the ideation, but because of the leadership that you're going to provide to the marketplace. And I want to challenge you as much about that today as I do about coming up with new ideas. New ideas are fun. But take a leadership role by understanding what's coming, and you don't have to run the ship aground. 30% job displacement. That's what those 35 million jobs represent. 30% job displacement. 40% in the next 7 years. We said this on the radio show the other day, so that's a cheap plug for our radio show on 99.7 WTN on 4 o'clock on Sundays. So 40% in the next 7 years are going to be side gigging. All right, if you're sitting next to your boss, don't raise your hand, all right? But are you side gigging today, by a show of hands? I am. I'm running 3 companies. IdeaShares is my baby, but my wife would call a sick entrepreneur, but I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? But 40% of people in 7 years are going to be side gigging. Look at Uber for a second. Uber is not it is a new phenomenon. But it's not a new phenomenon necessarily created by just technology. Yes, there was an app there that created that. Here's what we ought to be paying attention to. It's 170,000 Uber drivers. Why? Not because they woke up and said, I want to be a taxi driver. All right? I would venture to say 2 to 5% of you in this room have driven for Uber. 170,000, and there's a reason. It's because they were displaced. Or they didn't want a boss anymore. That's cool too, right? But a lot of them were because they were displaced. And so you think they're going to be around for long? And I know they had a wreck the other day. Anybody seen the Google driverless car? All right, they're going to have to reinvent themselves because they will be out of business. The 250,300,000 Uber drivers that are to come in the next 3 to 5 years will be out of business in 5 to 7 years because of the driverless car. That's what's going to happen. So where did the displaced go? Well, they better change. We like to use the word metanoia. It's Greek for a change in the way that you think. You're going to have to think differently moving forward. Let me show you another example here. And I'm sorry, it's too early in the morning for charts and economics, but it's cool stuff, isn't it? And it's not something that we have to be worried about, okay? We can participate in the opportunity. But in economics, productivity is the amount, okay, of economic value that's created by a given unit of input, such as an hour of labor. Okay, it doesn't have to necessarily be mechanized or human, all right, but that's what productivity is. And so productivity here is the red line. All right, and you see the disparity between the two lines because the line underneath that is, guess what that is? Employment. Okay, so the last time that you saw this was in the first machine age, which is in the 1900s, and you saw that because of the Industrial Revolution. That's fine. But it reverted back to the mean. Not a smart word, phrase. It reverted back to the mean, all right, because those jobs came back or created other opportunities. But it's already happening today. It started around the year 2000, and that disparity is going to continue to move away from each other, productivity and employment. And most of those jobs, as we said before, are simply not coming back. But here's the opportunity. We have an opportunity to start looking, stop looking for jobs necessarily. But we can start looking for work. All right? And I'm not talking about just work. I'm not doom and gloom here. You got to go out and start growing, cabbage in your backyard. Okay? It's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is you better be thinking differently and understand that what you thought may be back there for you as you venture out entrepreneurially, all right, or what you thought may be there for you in retirement and other things like that will not necessarily be there. But it's a great opportunity, right? So we want to start doing these things, and I like to write some of these down because I've got to convey this to you today, all right? We want you to stop worrying about your job and start looking for ways to create digital, mechanical, electrical, and intellectual products, all right? Or start creating service-based businesses that are needed in the new marketplace. And I'd be happy to talk about that later today. Again, but this isn't rocket science. It's here. All right, look at the Uber phenomenon and why that's been created and then the opportunities that we have. So what we do at IdeaShares is, there we go. What we do at IdeaShares is we have something called the 7 pillars of ideation and innovation. You saw that in the video from the beginning of today. The first thing that we like to do is to make sure people are educated. And again, we've got some high-powered entrepreneurs and investors that are here today, and I appreciate you being here. Some of you have come over from Europe, all the way from California, as I mentioned earlier, Smyrna. I'm just picking on Smyrna. If you're from Smyrna, don't be upset at me. But you got to be educated, and you got to be educated about these specific things that are happening here. The second thing that you need is validation. See, some of the people that are coming to IdeaShares and some of the people that are coming to you as angel investors or captains of industry, they're coming to you and they're asking about the validation of their ideas. But there's so many things that go into that equation. You know, we talked about the lost marriages and the empty bank accounts earlier, right? But you've got to validate that idea before you should move forward. I like to call it counting the cost. But then we deal with protection. That's the next panel that we have coming up here today. And I'm excited about that because we've got an amazing group of people that are going to talk about how do you protect that idea. And it doesn't always mean a patent. Yes, patents are great. Trademarks are great. Trade secrets are really good, okay? But we're going to move through some of these things and copyright. But you've got to protect your idea. Sometimes the best protection for your idea is the fastest pathway to the MVP and then to market. And then you duke it out. I had a friend one day that actually told us, one of the largest plastic manufacturers in the world, he said, he's from Liverpool, and I can't do his accent, but he said, Brian, he said, you know what intellectual property protection is? He said, it's like loading up the back of a truck, and when people chase after you, you throw things off at them. That's exactly what it is. Get people bobbing and weaving just as long enough that you can get the traction and the market share that you need. Then we're going to talk about development today. And this is a big thing for us because without development, you got no MVP. I don't care if it's even service-based. There's still development that goes into that, whether it's the brand or what else that we're culminating, a culmination of efforts in order to develop the actual product. Then promotion. How do you get your name out there, right? What are you going to do so people know you? How are you going to create ambassadors, right? Then the next thing is funding. And, funding is always on the top of everybody's mind. At the end of the day, I've been an entrepreneur for about 19 years. And someone told me about 15 years ago, which is the first time they actually raised money for a company or a project or whatever I was raising money for. They said, you're going to be raising money for the rest of your life. And that's the truth. From somebody, could be friends and family, could be crowdfunding, could be angels, could be venture capital. Eric Dobson's going to join us later today from Angel Capital Group, and he's going to talk about those different things. But you've got to understand the landscape because sometimes it's not the friendliest of landscapes. No offense, Eric. But it's not always the friendliest of landscapes. And then last but not least, we're going to have a panel at the end of the day today that's going to talk about scaling. Because not everybody in this room is going to have a product or something that's going to turn into what I would call an enterprise that actually has the opportunity to build enterprise value, right? Something that actually could be sold for a multiple. Sometimes what you're doing is you're creating products, and you should just be creating products that could be licensed, that could be sold, selling the patents, selling the intellectual property. But a lot of you are actually building businesses. But there's a secret to that, all right? And there's a pathway for it. So we're going to talk about gaining traction and then turning the corner. It's about it, in a baseball analogy, it's about like rounding second base is where you should be having traction. And we're going to get heavily into that today. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm very excited about you all being here. If you've never been to our website before, I'd love for you to go check out ideashares.com. And this is the place that you can test, develop, and then even profit from your ideas. So what we're trying to do is trying to help people lower and compress the amount of time and the costs and the overall risks that are associated, again, with the early stages of ideation. We're not an accelerator. I'm not a business coach. Our Sherpas, our idea Sherpas, are not business coaches. But what we are at the end of the day is we're going to help you, and we want to help people, and we hope the people in this room are helping people navigate that early stage and that pathway of early ideation. So I encourage you to check it out. Once again, I want to thank the folks that are joining us from around the world today. I mean, this is really exciting. All right, this is first of kind. You understand that you're participating in a prototype. So it should make you nervous. But that's what this is, folks. And if you saw us last night, you would have known that this is exactly what it is. It's a prototype. But it's all coming together today. And so I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank the folks that are watching and live streaming around the world. And what I want you to do today, what I'm going to challenge you to do is please, at least, you're going to get, this is going to be like a drive-by shooting. There's going to be so much information sent to you today. Just leave with one or two things. And then if you can also leave with one or two contacts that are going to help you on your journey, whatever it is, all right, then we've accomplished something in the first ever IdeaCon. So I appreciate you all. Thanks for being here. Have an awesome day.